Hi, Dad. How are you today?
Hey, good morning, Jordy. It's a beautiful Sunday morning.
It is. It's gorgeous. And we actually watched a fantastic movie, I thought,
Oh my
last night.
gosh, Hallmark took us to Malta, and I've never been to Malta, but I feel like after watching Hallmark and the story of love in this beautiful island, that I'm part of Malta, and I really enjoyed yesterday's Hallmark. It was terrific.
Yeah. So last night it was called For Love and Honey.
For love and honey, and in front of us today we have our honey, and they did mention the bear that most people have with honey in it, and we have that also. But they had a special honey in Malta.
Yeah. They're known for a particular type of bee, which who would have known? But they have an ancient bee there that makes a
Yes.
spectacular honey
And that bee is the reason the island is called Malta.
for sweetness. And that is what Malta means.
Yes, and this naming of Malta goes back to the ancient Greeks who discovered the bee and the honey, and they proclaimed the island of Malta in Greek, Malta. And that's lasted for 5,000 years. Can you imagine that?
Well, and this is really what part of this film was about.
Well, the Hallmark brought us Malta and put a wonderful love story into this beautiful island that goes back so long ago.
So we didn't know any of this history beforehand, which
Yes.
kind of brought us to looking into it a little bit more. But watching this film showed us this.
What's interesting also is that the characters were very fitting to the island of Malta.
Yeah.
The beekeeper, the young lady, the wonderful actress in the film, and the archaeologist. And why was the archaeologist there? It's because Malta goes back 5,000 to 10,000 years in history. And their archaeologic digs and their buildings lasted all this time. And the archaeologists throughout the world go to Malta to find the origin of humankind. And this is what we had with Hallmark.
So our Hallmark, did it again. They chose a wonderful cast of
yes.
Andrew Walker and Margaret. I think you pronounce her name Clooney. I'm not really sure how you pronounce her last name.
They were both terrific.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Played Austin and Eva, like you said, an archaeologist from
Yes,
Michigan. So Midwesterner. And Eva, who is from Malta, there playing a beekeeper who had
Yes.
an apiary, a local one that had been
Yes.
historically on Malta for years. She
In her family for years.
a family apiary that she had been keeping and did tours on and all this kind of stuff. So it was pretty fantastic that we got to see this. And
Well, we noticed that she had a British accent.
yeah.
And Malta was a possession of the British for 150 years. And so British English, is a very common language spoken in Malta. And of course, he came from the Midwest because of the archaeologic digs and the significant archaeologic findings.
Well,
And it fit. These two people were coming together, and it was very realistic, their love.
and it was interesting because we found he was trying to to get his tenure, to get a paper done, and really
Yes.
find the purpose of, to keep his studies up there. And I love the beginning, if you recall. So he
Yes.
was sitting there and there was a bee emergency, right? Do you
Yes.
remember this?
Yes.
There was a bee emergency and her sister, who is doing some help around the apiary, had called and said, a bee emergency, And
Yes.
so they had found that a bee had wandered into the library at Malta and he was swatting it
Yes.
with an ancient paper. And so
Part of his studies.
studies. And so, again, swatting bees are, prized possessions because we need them.
In Malta, you don't swat bees.
Anywhere you're not really supposed to swat bees because we need them for crops and all different
pollination.
things. Pollination.
Right. Yes.
So this really brings you to the whole full circle of the story of this
how they met,
and then the adventure they go on,
yes,
and then the gold.
Well, I found that Hallmark put together this wonderful love story in this most idyllic island, and all of the characters and the bees fit in beautifully with their love story and their passion for bees, for all their archaeological digs, and for each other.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we didn't mention that this, Hallmark takes us on this passport for love each summer. Last summer we went for weddings. This summer we're going, I think, just on like a different, seeing all these different places. And on this passport of love, they take us there. This was actually filmed in Malta. The whole thing.
It was wonderful. And as I mentioned, the actor and actress and the entire cast fit in very nicely. And it was a wonderful evening of watching love unfold and watching this beautiful island as a background for their love.
And we got to see mystery because there was a map, there was a lot of stuff that we got to follow, a fresco that held. We learned about frescoes and these pictures that contained clues that they had to follow. And that was kind of what sparked the love.
And they went into the catacombs, which were discovered thousands of years ago, and where much of the Maltese history unfolded.
With the knights and realizing, and we don't want to give too much of it away, but gold doesn't always have to be what we think of as gold.
Yeah, gold is yellow, and what Malta has is gold, but not the kind that we put into our teeth.
Right.
And it is a wonderful story, and I think that you will enjoy, if you haven't watched it, to go watch it. If you've never been to Malta, Hallmark takes you to Malta, and I think that they hit it out of the ballpark. It was not a tearjerker. It was a real true story of two people following their love, their passion, and meeting and identifying with each other. A wonderful love story. What's for next week?
So next week we get to go to Paris, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous city in savoring Paris.
Yeah, but don't go to Paris this summer because it's full of tourists for the Olympics.
Oh, that's right. The Olympics is hitting Paris. So this brings back Bethany Joy Lenz, who is known around Hallmark. She's fantastic, and she was also in one of my favorite shows growing up, One Tree Hill. And then I think he's a newcomer to Hallmark, Stanley Weber, because I believe looking him up, he may be more towards, I think he's from Paris. I think he's from France when looking up some history. So I think they may sometimes bring some of the cast.
Well, then I changed my mind. You can go to Paris via Hallmark.
Absolutely.
And go to Paris, watch this wonderful love story in Paris, and it's a great place to visit on Hallmark. It won't cost you any money, and you'll have a wonderful love story to go with it.
And this one looked fun, if you remember, and we may have to change our scenery because this one involves cheese. So this one was the one, if you remember, we saw her. She's dating and trying every kind of cheese.
Fromage,
exactly.
Yes.
So we did not have a chance to drink our tea, but cheers to everybody having a great week.
Have
cheers,
a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the beginning of summer, and we'll see everybody, Jordana, next week for another wonderful Hallmark adventure, this time in Paris, France.
Have a great one, everybody.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.